What are you working on at the moment?
There are a lot of things that I'm working on right now. I run an initiative called Empowered Women of the World, or eWOW, which is basically geared towards building an intellectual platform for women to be able to discover, visualize, and actualize their success. And this is important because there's so many norms that are set around by the society for us women in terms of what success means, right? In some cultures, it's being married and having kids. That's success, right? In some cultures, it's about the position and the title. In some cultures, it's about, how you're perceived by the society. And that's not what success means to a woman. To be able to actually discover what success means to us and to be able to actualize it is important. And that's what eWOW is focused towards. So we bring an intellectual platform through our podcast, through the events that we conduct. We actually just completed our eWOW virtual summit that had very strong presence across the globe. And we had sponsors like Facebook and LinkedIn Learning helping us through the process. But that's an initiative that I run. Apart from them, apart from eWOW, I'm also head of education products at Automation Anywhere. We're leading RPA provider, robotic process automation tool provider, and that's what I'm dabbling my hands into nowadays.
What did you study and why did you choose this?
I was on the path to become a doctor. What happened was when I was in my 12th grade, I fell sick. I had lymphadenitis, which is swelling of the lymph nodes, which helped me be away from school for about 2 to 3 months. And that's why I couldn't, pursue medicine after 12th grade. I was very depressed. And then my mother said, why don't you join this botany class? So I joined a degree in botany. But then what happened was that there was this computer program came up and there was a scholarship exam that was out there. And my mom said, just go take this exam. And I was like, I'm not interested. I just don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And my mom said, what's the worst that would happen? That you wouldn't get the scholarship, right? So go give it a try. So I gave it a try. I got the scholarship. And that's how my journey to computer science started. And as I got into it, I realized that I loved it. I loved what I could do with the technology. And it so happened that program, after 2 years of that program, there was a professional practice attached to it. So I was absorbed. They would absorb 15% of the top students into the same institute that was teaching. And NIT used to be huge in India at that time. It's still huge with about presence in about 65, 70 countries today. So I was absorbed over there. And during that process, I realized that I loved writing and I loved, disseminating that knowledge to the outside world as opposed to just writing programs. So that's how I got into training in enablement. And then I got exposure into being managing accounts. Microsoft was one of the accounts that I was managing. Peregrine and PeopleSoft used to be some other ones at that time. And there I started dabbling with budget sheets and I enjoyed that part. And so I got opportunities very early on in my career. I was lucky, but that's how my journey really started. And I loved every bit and piece of it. So I started as a developer very early on, moved into training and enablement, got into a business role very quickly, and have stayed in that business, product, and enablement role since then.
Can you remember what was the most fascinating thing about tech for you back then?
I'm trying to think about that, and there were a lot of fascinating things. I think one of them was to be able to, and it's funny because when you typically start learning tech, as in any, you still start with the traditional languages, C, C++, and this was early on. And the fact that you could use a programming language to build a user interface that was so intuitive was fascinating to me. It was almost like, drawing something, using lines and colors to be able to create something that resonated with the audience. So that was the most exciting stuff, I think. And I think now that you look at what technology can do, obviously they are life-changing things. But for me at that time as a student, that was beautiful.
What was the most disappointing thing for you in tech back then or until now?
There is so much technology that's being put out there, but there is still not a way to be able to make it solution based so that the consumers can absorb it. I was at Amazon Web Services, for example, before my stint at Oracle and Automation Anywhere. And we used to work with a lot of customers, and Amazon is known to put out so many services every year. And our customers actually dealt with something called technology fatigue. They were not able to keep up with things that the industry was putting out there, and there was frustration around it. So I think there is still a need somewhere, and I don't know how we are going to handle it, but to bring it all together, to be able to make it in a consumable format for the customers to be able to leverage it, as opposed to just throwing out products into the market. Don't think technology is there yet where we are we are creating products based on real life problems. We're creating products because we think this is a brilliant piece of technology, right? But it's not usable. So I always, I look at the analogy and I look at, you see those pieces, beautiful art pieces when you go to museum that look beautiful but are highly impractical and cannot be used to solve any real life problem. And then you come in and you look at a gadget, right? uh, and suddenly it just makes your life so simple for you, right? So so for me, technology has to get there. And where it is right now in some cases is as those museum pieces that are brilliant pieces of technology but have no real life use, if you will.
You started the Women in Tech community, eWOW, Empowered Women of the World.
It's not just women in tech community, it's actually women at workplace community. I've been a woman in tech for about 20 years. The moment I moved into training and enablement, people started having this perception that I'm not technical enough. Then all these organizations started: women in tech, women in cloud, women in AI, and I felt boxed. I didn't know where my place was and how to handle that. And as I started talking to a lot of women leaders, I realized that they face the same challenges as well. Just like any other human being, we women are holistic human beings, right? I'm an author, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a sponsor, I am a training and enablement executive, I know product management, and I'm technical. So don't try to box me into something. Give me that intellectual platform where I can grow as an individual. When I say that it's an intellectual platform to help women discover, visualize, and actualize their success, that's what it means. Like, success can mean different things to different people. And we don't want to qualify that. We want women to have an opportunity to explore what success means for them. So for example, when we did our eWOW summit, it was it was about technology, but it was also about leadership, and it was about entrepreneurship, and it was about self-care and mindfulness, because that's what constitutes the holistic being, right? And that's what eWOW is focused at.
Mm-hmm. So you are a women in tech evangelist and a women holistic life approach evangelist. What are the main things you advise women to create a fulfilling life and career?
A few things, actually. First, know your superpower. It's extremely important to know what your superpower is. Normally when we start talking about things, we women are very scared, or people, it's funny you mentioned that, because when I wrote my book, Fast Track Your Leadership Career, there were many men who actually read that book, although it was targeted towards women. And then they came back and they said, we love the woman's perspective and everything else, but I wish you would have told us that there's so much value in it for men as well. So for everybody out there, first of all, know your superpower. It's extremely important to know what sets you apart from others, right? We all have a superpower, and it's important to bring it out and understand it. The second piece is build your personal brand. How many times we go out there and we introduce ourselves as, hey, I am Rashim Mogha and I work for Automation Anywhere, and I'm head of education products. And that's where our introduction ends. So next time when I change my job, I go there and introduce myself as, hey, I'm Rashim Mogha and I work for this company. So my identity perceivably keeps changing, but I'm not changing as an individual. I'm growing as an individual. And my identity should not be defined by the company that I work for or the job position that I hold. So it's very important to build your personal brand. And then once you have your personal brand, you communicate it to the outside world. Find your sponsors who are going to help you in your next job role or in your next career move or in your next endeavor, or for you to be able to find success in whatever you perceive that success to be. So those are the key things. Know your superpower, build your personal brand, find your sponsors, and then last but not the least, give back to the community. And that's very important, because you can give, it took me a long time to realize that you can give back at any stage in your career, and you do not have to be at an exact level to be able to give back.
How important is independence for growing in business and in life?
I don't think about it as independence. I think about it as equality, equal opportunity to be able to learn new things, equal opportunity to pursue your dreams, equal opportunity to have the life that you see for yourself, right? Equal opportunity to carve out a success path for yourself. As basic as these things might sound, the reality is that we live in a very unequal world. I myself, I come from a royal lineage in India. And while girls in my family are highly educated, once they come to a certain age, they need to get married and they need to have children. And none of that is determined by them, right? And I did not want that life for myself. So I ran away from an arranged marriage, came to United States to find my American dream. And my American dream wasn't to make it big or be a woman in tech evangelist at that time. My American dream was to be able to make decisions for my life myself. And that's what is important for everybody. And that's what I'm striving for. And that's what I'm trying to build with this empowered woman of the world, for women to be able to discover what their success is. And for me, success at that time was just not being able to tie to someone whom I didn't even know for the rest of my life, right? And that's how I see it. I want this place to be an equal world. And that's what I'm striving towards.
What's your main take on AI?
Being able to get there where we can just impact humanity. So I'll give you a real life example. Alexa skills is voice AI, conversational AI. And my father-in-law suffers from Alzheimer's. He is a person who has always been in control of his life. And he has managed a big family, made sure all his kids were educated, came here with probably just $13 in his pocket to the United States and built a career for himself, has 4 successful kids. And for him to be at a stage where he cannot remember which switch he has to press to be able to turn on the lights, it's very, very frustrating. And for him to be able to have that control where he can just say, Alexa, turn on the lights, and the lights turn on, is a big victory. And that's my take on the impact that AI can make on human life.
What is the most promising thing for you about conversational AI?
I think it's more about how it's changing the world and how we do things. AI in general, not just conversational AI, right? I was speaking at US-China summit not too long ago at Johns Hopkins University, and we were having this conversation. And I remember a conversation that I had from the CXO summit not too long ago, where we were talking about how self-driving cars would change the future of the world. Now, can you imagine thinking about a time where our children, my son is 10 years old, for example, 7 years down the line, he might not even need a driver's license because there would be self-driving cars, right? How cities will have to change their entire infrastructure because they're not built right now to have those self-driving cars on the road. It's about how the life would change. It's almost like, I keep saying this, we're at the brink of fourth industrial revolution. We've just entered into that. It's going to change the way we do things, right? It's going to change, like when fire was discovered, everything changed, right? We're right about there. There's something magical that's going to happen. And I can't wait to see it in my lifetime. I hope I get to see it in my lifetime. But imagine like what it will do to people who need that kind of, support. The community has changed in a big way. The people are living longer, but they're also living with conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, right? And how these technology, how AI is going to change things for them and make life better for them is the big spectrum that I see. Some things are going to completely change the way we do work, the way we do business, right? I was sitting down with my niece the other day, and she saw my laptop, and immediately she wanted to just scroll things,
Yeah.
right? And my laptop doesn't have, touch screen enabled. So she was very frustrated because in her generation, 2 years old, 3 years old, they work with smartphones and tablets, and they're used to touch screens, right? So can you imagine being in a stage where even having a keyboard that's a hardware is going to be unimaginable? So that's where I see the power of AI, and that's where I see how things are going to happen.
And the voice thing will be a great transmitter.
Absolutely. Conversational AI is going to just enable things to be done in a very different way, in terms of ensuring security for our kids, for example, or making sure how we communicate. Like, imagine if there is a conversational AI piece where you could just get on with your day without having to touch your laptop at all, right? And you can just say, what's my next appointment? And Alexa tells you the next appointment, and you say, Alexa, get me on Zoom, and Alexa gets you on Zoom, and you're walking around just doing, that would be true work life integration, if you will.